The first $100,000 takes you 99 months. The next 100,000 takes 63. Same monthly investment. Same return assumption. No raise required. So where did those 36 months go? At 5:47 on a Thursday evening, the last student leaves your office at the community college in Richmond, Virginia. She walks away carrying a transfer plan folder and a list of classes she was certain she could not afford an hour ago. You stay behind. The hallway grows quiet. Half the ceiling lights switch off automatically, leaving your office in the pale blue glow of a computer screen. An investment account is open on the monitor. The balance reads $100,105. You refresh the page. The number does not change. You thought this moment would feel larger. For years, $100,000 existed in your mind as a dividing line. It separated people who were still trying to build wealth from people whose money had finally begun building wealth for them. Now you have crossed it. But nothing in the room looks different. The carpet is still gray. The air conditioner still rattles above the door. Tomorrow's calendar still holds 6 student appointments before lunch. There is no celebration waiting outside. No one in the hallway knows what happened. Then Deshaun appears in the doorway, carrying his jacket and an unfinished cup of coffee. You planning to sleep here? You reach for the mouse, but he has already noticed the account balance. He steps closer. Is that yours? You nod. Deshaun reads the number again, then looks at you. You crossed 100,000? About 10 minutes ago. His face opens into a grin. He gives you a quick fist bump and notices the desk calendar beside your keyboard. The 15th of next month is circled in thick black ink. Beneath the date, you wrote $750. Do not touch. Deshaun taps the calendar. So this can finally stop, right? You know exactly what he means. For 99 consecutive months, $750 has left your checking account and moved into the portfolio. It left during good markets. It left during bad markets. It left during months when investing felt intelligent and during months when it felt like throwing money into a machine that refused to acknowledge you. Now the account has reached the milestone everyone talks about. Maybe this is the reward. Maybe you can turn off the automatic investment, keep more of your paycheck, and allow compounding to take over. You stand, pick up a marker and walk to the whiteboard near the window. At the top, you write 99 months. Below it, 63 months. Deshaun studies the board. What am I looking at? The time it took to build the first 100,000. You point to 99. Then you point to 63. And the time the next 100,000 could take. He looks from one number to the other. You're increasing the 750? No. You're assuming a better return? No. Then why is the second one 3 years faster? Because the next 100,000 does not begin at 0. It begins with 99 months of work already inside the account. But before you can understand what changes after the first 100,000, you need to see who actually built it. You began investing seriously at 31. Your salary as a new academic advisor was approximately $54,000 a year. You were earning enough to live independently, but $750 was not an invisible part of your paycheck. You felt it every month. The first automatic investment occurred on a Friday. $750 moved from checking into a simple diversified portfolio. By Monday afternoon, the balance was below $740. You knew markets moved. You knew 3 days meant nothing to a long-term investor. But knowledge did not make the experience feel less ridiculous. You had delayed purchases, planned your groceries, and deliberately moved money away from yourself. The market responded by removing part of it. The following month, another $750 went in. Then another. After 12 months, you had contributed $9,000. Yet the growth displayed inside the account looked insignificant beside the money you had personally supplied. On a good day, the portfolio earned enough to buy lunch. On a bad day, it removed several weeks of contributions before dinner. This is the stage of compounding that rarely appears in motivational charts. At the beginning, compounding does not feel powerful. It feels almost irrelevant. If a $750 balance moves by 1%, the change is only $7.50. If a $10,000 portfolio earns an illustrative 7% over an entire year, that represents roughly $700. Meanwhile, you are contributing $9,000 every year. The deposit is still doing most of the visible work. This is why early investing can feel broken even when the system is behaving normally. People tell you that money should work for you. But every meaningful increase still seems to require another sacrifice from your paycheck. At 33, a large dental bill makes you consider pausing the automatic investment. At 35, your rent increases again. At 36, the market declines and removes a painful amount of progress from the screen. Each event produces the same question. If compounding is so powerful, why does the account still need so much help from me? Because compounding can only work on what is already there. The percentage does not become stronger as the account grows. The dollar amount attached to that percentage becomes larger. 7% of $1,000 is $70. 7% of $10,000 is $700. 7% of $100,000 is $7,000. The rate did not change. The base did. And during the early years, building that base is almost entirely your responsibility. Your salary gradually rises from approximately $54,000 to $71,000. You do not send every raise into the market. You strengthen your emergency fund. You replace things that genuinely need replacing. You allow your life to improve. But the $750 investment continues. Not because every month is easy. Because the decision was made before each month began. The first 100,000 feels painfully slow because it is not mainly a story about market returns. It is a story about continuing before the returns become large enough to encourage you. Back in the office, Deshawn pulls a chair toward your desk. You open the account history and divide the balance into two parts. The money that came from you. And the money generated inside the portfolio. The model is straightforward. You started with zero. You invested $750 at the end of every month. For illustration, the portfolio earned an average annual return of 7%, compounded monthly. There were no withdrawals. The calculation does not include taxes, investment fees, or inflation. Real markets do not deliver the same return every month or every year. Some years rise sharply. Other years fall. This is not a prediction. It is a controlled example designed to show how the division of labor changes as the account becomes larger. Over 99 months, you made 99 contributions of $750. Your money totaled $74,250. The account reached approximately $100,105. That means the modeled investment growth contributed about $25,855. Deshawn looks at the two numbers. So you supplied almost 75,000 of it? Yes. And the investments produced about 26? In this model. He leans back. I thought the market would have built more. Most people do. The phrase, your first 100,000, makes the milestone sound like a triumph of compounding. But nearly 3 out of every $4 in this first milestone came directly from your contributions. The market helped. $25,000 of growth is meaningful. Without it, you would still be years away from the number on your screen. But growth was not yet the primary engine. You were. That truth does not make the milestone less impressive. It makes it more useful. If one lucky stock had produced the entire gain, you might never be able to repeat it. But you did not need one extraordinary investment. You did not correctly predict every market decline. You did not find a secret return unavailable to everyone else. You created a process ordinary enough to survive ordinary life. You earned income. You kept emergency savings outside the portfolio so every unexpected expense did not force you to sell investments. You continued buying when the market felt encouraging and when it felt hostile. Most importantly, you left the money alone long enough for growth to become visible. The first 100,000 is not proof that you can predict the market. It is proof that your system survived long enough to gain scale. During those 99 months, your contributions built approximately 74% of the ending balance. The growth supplied roughly 26%. But now the account no longer begins each month with a few hundred or a few $1,000s. It begins with 6 figures already invested. The same $750 contribution is about to receive help from every dollar you accumulated before it. That is why the next stage looks completely different. You do not need a larger monthly investment. You do not need a higher assumed return. You only need the first 100,000 to remain inside the machine. Begin the second stage with $100,000 invested. Continue adding $750 at the end of every month. Keep the same illustrative 7% annual return, compounded monthly. Under those assumptions, the account grows to approximately $201,000 after another 63 months. The first 100,000 required 99 months. The second required 63. 36 months disappeared from the journey even though you did not contribute $1 more each month. During the second stage, you add $47,250. The modeled growth produces approximately $53,911. For the first time, growth during the stage contributes more than the new money you deposit during that same stage. That is the real shift. $100,000 does not activate a special interest rate. The brokerage does not reward you for crossing 6 figures. The market does not know that the number on your screen has gained an extra digit. The second stage moves faster because 3 separate forces are now working together. Your new contributions can grow. The original $100,000 can grow. And any growth created inside the portfolio can generate additional growth. You are no longer building every new dollar from zero. Imagine that your portfolio earns 1% during a particular period. At $10,000, that movement equals $100. At $100,000, the same movement equals $1,000. That is more than your entire monthly contribution. A larger base turns ordinary percentage movements into meaningful dollar amounts. But the effect works in both directions. A 1% decline at $10,000 removes $100. At $100,000, it removes $1,000. A 10% decline could temporarily reduce the account by approximately $10,000, more than you contribute in an entire year. Compounding has not removed risk. Scale has simply made both growth and loss more visible. Deshawn looks at the two numbers on the whiteboard. 99 months. 63 months. So now the money really is working harder than you. You pause before answering. It sounds correct. During the second stage, modeled growth contributes more than your new deposits. The portfolio has clearly become a major part of the process. But that does not automatically mean the first 100,000 is already producing more each year than you are contributing. Those are two different comparisons. One measures growth across the entire 63-month journey. The other compares 1 year of expected growth with 1 year of contributions. And when you calculate that second number, one of the most repeated claims about the first $100,000 begins to fall apart. You are still the engine. The portfolio has simply become a second engine beside you. The next question is whether that second engine is already powerful enough for you to turn the first one off. You turn back to the whiteboard. Deshawn is still waiting for an answer. Is $100,000 finally working harder than you? Under this model, the answer is no. Not yet. At an illustrative 7% annual return, a $100,000 portfolio would generate approximately $7,000 over a year. You are still contributing $9,000. $750 a month. 12 times a year. So even after crossing 6 figures, your annual contributions remain larger than the portfolio's assumed annual growth. You write one more number on the board. $128,571. Deshawn reads it slowly. What happens there? That's where 7% is roughly equal to the $9,000 I contribute every year. The calculation is simple. 9,000 divided by 7%. Approximately $128,571. That is the conceptual crossover point where the portfolio's assumed annual growth matches your annual contributions. But even that number is not a switch. A spreadsheet can produce 7% every year because a spreadsheet follows instructions. The market does not. 1 year, the portfolio might gain much more than 7%. Another year, it could decline. Your account could cross $128,000 and still lose money during the following 12 months. The crossover is useful for understanding scale. It is not a guaranteed payday. Deshawn points to the first number again. So why does everyone talk about 100,000? Because it is large enough for normal percentage movements to create noticeable dollar amounts. Because it is the first major milestone many ordinary investors can imagine reaching without inheritance, a business sale, or one extraordinary investment. And because the journey to it often requires more from your behavior than from the market. But $100,000 does not change the rules. It does not make the portfolio safe. It does not make you financially independent. It does not transform invested assets into money you can spend without consequences. And it does not mean you have finished contributing. The first 100,000 matters because the portfolio can finally share a meaningful portion of the workload. Not because it can carry the entire load alone. That distinction matters when you sit down the next evening and place your cursor over the button that says Pause Automatic Investment. $750 a month is $9,000 a year. For almost 8 years, you have trained yourself to think of that money as unavailable. But now you begin imagining what it could do outside the portfolio. You could replace the living room furniture you have owned since your early 30s. You could travel more than once a year. You could stop calculating the price difference between two ordinary versions of the same purchase. None of those choices would make you irresponsible. Investing is supposed to support a life. It is not supposed to become a competition to see how little of that life you can enjoy. Still, before pausing the transfer, you run one more comparison. If you keep the $100,000 invested and continue contributing $750 a month, the simplified model reaches approximately $200,000 in another 63 months. A little over 5 years. If you stop contributing entirely and leave the original $100,000 to grow at the same illustrative 7% rate, reaching $200,000 takes close to 120 months. Nearly 10 years. Turning off the contribution does not destroy the portfolio. The money can continue compounding. But removing $750 a month eliminates one of the two engines that made the second stage faster. The difference is almost 5 additional years. That does not mean pausing is always a mistake. If your emergency fund disappears, maintaining liquidity may matter more than protecting an arbitrary contribution streak. If you are carrying high-interest debt, the trade-off changes. If your health, employment, or housing situation becomes unstable, reducing the contribution may be the responsible decision. A planned pause is not failure. But an accidental permanent stop can begin with one harmless-looking click. You tell yourself it will last 3 months. Then the extra money becomes part of your normal spending. Restarting the transfer begins to feel like accepting a $750 pay cut. You look at the pause button again. Reaching $100,000 did not create a new emergency. It did not change your income. It did not reveal that the monthly investment was unaffordable. The only thing that changed was your belief that the portfolio might no longer need you. You cancel the pause request. Then you open a separate savings account and schedule a smaller automatic transfer for travel. You are not choosing between enjoying life and building wealth. You are refusing to make one milestone responsible for solving both problems. The $750 remains invested. The travel fund allows some of the next raise to improve your present life. And the portfolio keeps both engines running. The first real change is visibility. When the account was worth $10,000, a 10% decline represented $1,000. At $100,000, the same decline represents $10,000. That is more than you contribute in an entire year. The mathematics may be familiar. The emotional experience is not. A larger portfolio tests whether your behavior can remain consistent when market movement becomes larger than your paycheck. The second change is that small percentages become larger dollar amounts. That applies to growth. It also applies to fees. A fee that looked insignificant when the account was small can remove more money as the portfolio grows. It reduces the amount that remains available to compound in the future. You review the costs inside your accounts. You do not chase the cheapest number without understanding what you own. You simply make sure every continuing cost has a clear purpose. The third change is that concentration becomes more dangerous in absolute dollars. You do not attempt to accelerate the journey by placing most of the portfolio into the investment with the most exciting recent return. You keep the account diversified, knowing diversification can reduce some risks but cannot guarantee protection from losses. The fourth change is psychological. Before $100,000, you kept asking whether the process was moving fast enough. After $100,000, the more important question becomes whether you can avoid damaging a process that has already proven it can work. You keep the emergency fund separate so an ordinary crisis does not force you to sell investments at the wrong time. You leave the automatic contribution in place. You schedule a fee review once a year instead of checking the market every morning. And when your next raise arrives, you plan to increase the contribution automatically before the new income disappears into routine spending. You do not become more aggressive because the account gained an extra digit. You become more deliberate. The first 100,000 does not remove uncertainty. It makes the consequences of your decisions larger. That is what truly changes. Not the market. Not the return. Not the rules of compounding. The size of the machine, and your responsibility for protecting it. The following Thursday, the office is quiet again. The two numbers remain on the whiteboard. 99 months. 63 months. Deshawn stops at the doorway and looks at your desk calendar. The 15th of next month is still circled. $750. Do not touch. So you're keeping it? For now. He nods toward the computer. Even though the account can grow without it? You look at the balance, then back at the calendar. It can grow without me. It just grows much more slowly. That is the part hidden inside the first $100,000. The milestone does not mean your work is finished. It means your previous work has become productive. For 99 months, nearly every meaningful step required another contribution from you. You supplied $74,250. The modeled growth supplied approximately $25,855. You carried most of the weight. During the next stage, the balance can contribute more than $53,000 of modeled growth while you add $47,250. The division begins to reverse. Not in a single day. Not because 100,000 is magical. And never in a perfectly smooth line. It changes gradually as the money already invested becomes large enough to influence the journey beside you. You erase the two numbers from the whiteboard. But you leave the next transfer date circled. The first $100,000 did not make you rich. It changed the division of labor. For 8 years, you carried the portfolio. Now the portfolio has finally started carrying part of the weight. And if $100,000 can shorten the road to $200,000, the next question is much bigger. How long could that first $100,000 take to become $1 million?